off your suit.
Hello, beautiful people. I am Oliver Perrin, and you are joining us within the comforting confines of a safer space, where this late afternoon I am speaking with Mr. Tim Rudisill. The topic of our discussion today will be KAVANAUGH, the Supreme Court Justice hearings, and all of the bullshit, all of the hysteria, all of the mad, rabid claims that are being made. And how all of this relates to, how all of this rather nicely illustrates the typical playbook for socialist attempts to establish dominance. I will turn this over to Tim in just a moment. Let me first ask you to stay subscribed on Semiogogue. Please check. A number of people have been kicked off. I noticed like 40 subscribers have been shaved off by YouTube in recent weeks. So make sure that you're still subscribed over there. Click the bell for notifications if that suits you. Please subscribe to this channel, A Safer Space. Be aware, if you don't want to watch our content on YouTube, you can see analogs for both of these channels, both of them, on BitChute. There's also Gab.
But
Minds.
You'll still get the little brown unicorns.
Yes, you will, and lovely unicorns they are. There's also Gab, Minds, Twitter. There's a Discord server, and there is Patreon for those who wish to support the channel. Thank you very much to those who do. And within just a few days, right around September 30th, I think the content strikes for Semiogogue will lapse, and we'll get that channel rolling again.
I'll have to see what I can do about that.
Yeah, well, all it's going to take is, 5 or 10 minutes of you speaking your mind, and the entire channel will be removed. Hopefully that won't happen too soon. I guess this brings us right around to the way in which socialists try to get things done by leering and smearing and innuendo and character assassination and slobbering and diaper shitting. And we're seeing that going on with KAVANAUGH here. How would you like to launch this particular foray of considerations?
Boy, I tell you, Holly, you did a hell of a job there with all those expletives and
huffing and puffing.
Well, puffing and huffing and Huffington Post, yeah. The thing is that they've got nothing. They have done absolutely nothing except slide their little missive into the box in Florence. Now, for those of you who don't know, Florence used to have a little box, and you could slide in an accusation about someone into it, and then the Doge and all those people would get together and look at it and decide, who is this evil person?
Doge, so you mean Venice.
Venice, excuse me, I'm sorry. Venice. And they would decide that this evil person needed to be questioned. And this evil person to be brought in and questioned about, what have you done wrong?
Right, and the onus is upon you to prove your innocence. And of course, we cannot prove a negative.
Oh, goodness, you can't prove a negative. How delightful it is for the accuser. This recovered memories is the problem I'm having here.
Yeah, we had recovered memories with pedophilia in Belgium and a Satanism scare in the U.S., as I recall.
Yeah, and there was a, I can't remember the name of it, but it was a particular school, it's closed since, that was educating a bunch of these recovered memory people to go out and uncover the memories of child abuse and ritualistic, satanic, whatnot, generational, so on. But they managed to get a number of secondary schools set up, and I'm sure they've continued on because It's a typical socialist thing.
Well, now, just let me insert this. As I recall, when I first
All right.
met you around 90, 91-ish, somewhere in there, we were talking back when I was, working on the magazine. You had mentioned, and I might have this, I hope I have it right. I might be mistaken in some respect, but as I recall, you did a certain number of appearances at conferences for law enforcement talking about this hysteria surrounding the occult and Satanism and all the rest.
Why, yes, I did. But that really doesn't amount to a hill of beans at this point. Hello? Hello? 1, 2, 3, hello? You don't want to talk to me. Well, that's just as well. I am sorry.
I just brought
I'd
that.
assumed it. Yeah.
I just brought that up because it indicates that it was a phenomenon you were paying attention to at the time.
Oh, it was because it was so all pervasive. Everywhere you looked, it was recovered memory this, recovered memory that. Generational satanic ritual child abuse. Young girls as young as 12 being put into basements.
To be breeders.
Forced to have
yes.
children. Yes. So that they could sacrifice the children. And everybody had memories of it. And it was all about digging up daycare centers with backhoes. It was wonderful stuff. Absolutely marvelous. It was typical leftist propaganda. And it was of this same sort. You throw in the allegation, and the allegation is all you need. Because they must be believed.
Yeah, we had the original civil standard, evidentiary standard, which is preponderance of of the evidence. We had the criminal standard, which seemed to have been good enough for all these years of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. But it seems that the socialists want to bring in, rather than civil or criminal, a political standard, which amounts to nothing more than a credible accusation.
Does it really have to be credible?
Clearly, it does not.
Well, you see, it is credible because it's made by one of the oppressed.
Yeah, and what's interesting in terms of who made the accusations, we've seen this now with a number of the congressmen, senators. I can't remember which, but more than one has gotten up and said things about how you can't just dismiss a person like Ford because she's a woman with a PhD and a highly educated, went to Yale, as I recall. And then we had Michael Avenatti, who remains to be seen what that particular rat will be gnawing on. But he...
I wonder what stripper he's got in mind now. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And Avenatti, as well as, you can't... Trump better be careful with what he says to try to discredit the anonymous person that I'm going to bring forward because, again, it's a different class of person. There's something odd going on here with the way in which the focus on this, of necessity, because of the social stratum in which Kavanaugh operated, the Ivy League schools and all the rest. The focus on this has been very much about bringing out the middle class, upper middle class and higher, particularly females, college indoctrinated folks. There's a specific emphasis
I do
here.
love the way they both of these college females have been indoctrinated in socialism. Excuse me, what is it called?
Social justice.
Social justice? No, it's something else. Sociology, that's it. Sociology.
Cultural studies, humanities.
Yeah.
The second one they got, the Ramirez, maybe is her last name. I can't remember. But
yeah, Ramirez.
The hysterical post-menopausal judgmental fishwifery inherent in their accusations.
My God, Ollie.
You look at
Condemn her.
You look at the photographs of these women, and they're just, I don't know. There's something off, like fish that's been left in the sun for too long about all of them.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, old son. They have nothing to back up their claims except they're making them. That's it. They're making them. Nobody else has said the first fucking thing in support of them. If this were a criminal situation, they'd be laughed out of the prosecutor's office. They wouldn't even make it to court.
They wouldn't even make it to an investigation being opened.
You're right.
As many people have pointed out, there's not a statute of limitations for this
in Maryland.
In Maryland, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, they seem to have no interest.
Well, there has to be a complaint made first. One wonders when the complaint will be made. Or if a complaint will be made, because there is such a thing as false swearing. You see, when you fill out a police report, you have to sign it under penalty of perjury. Whereas making an allegation to a local congressperson, which then goes up the ladder, there is no penalty of perjury.
Until they speak at a hearing, presumably under oath at that point.
Until, are we going to do this Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? I've got to drive across the country. I can't fly.
Yeah, I can't fly, even though I managed somehow to drive to Hawaii.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. I'm sorry. The whole thing stinks to me. Now, whether Judge Kavanaugh is as righteous and wonderful a person, and virginal a person as he states, I do not know, and I don't care. They have produced nothing that interests me in the least. Now, I don't like federal judges. All right? I don't like them. I don't like judges of any kind. I don't care for criminal justice. I don't care for any of it, having been the grateful recipient of it myself. I will tell you now that, to me, this is garbage. This should not be allowed. And to be honest with you, if we are to retain our system of government, it cannot be allowed. Not that it may not, it cannot be allowed, because it reduces everything to allegation. And if I can allege something against someone and have that be sufficient, if I am of the victim class, then we have left the United States of America far, far behind. We have reached a point that Beria would love. He doesn't even have to prove the crime. He just has to allege it, and that's enough.
Right, and the show trial takes place in the great TV court that is our media.
But is it really a trial? When you have so many people acting as judge and jury and deciding that, oh, we can't hear this and we must hear that. They were actually entertaining the idea that Kavanaugh was going to testify first. What is he going to testify to? As far as that goes, he's already given his complete rejection of the allegation, complete rejection of the charge. As nebulous as it is, she doesn't know when it happened, where it happened. We're gradually wheedling it down to an intersection, apparently, somewhere between point A and point B. We haven't gotten around to, introducing anything that whittles it down in time, though, except we know she was 15. Ish, yeah. And to be honest with you, the whole damn thing, both allegations, stink to high heaven.
And it's the same damn thing we saw with, the piss dossier of, Trump in hotel rooms with prostitutes peeing on beds. And then you've got Michael Avenatti's thing now that, this is a side thing, but...
Makes you wonder what Auntie Hillary has to do with it.
Yes.
And because to be honest with you, that's to whom I trace it back. Mr. Perez and Auntie Hillary. These are the pee on the bed, put a hand over the mouth, shove a penis in someone's face. These are things that they think of. Yeah,
and there's, as I just started to say, there's something odd that, could be its own little thing that's noteworthy, but I'll plug it in here. A lot of people didn't notice it, but basically Trump stopped trying, or Trump's minions, Trump's proxies, whatever, simply stopped trying to enforce the non-disclosure agreement on Stormy Daniels, and nobody talked about it at the time. He just said, fine, okay, it was never signed by me, so you're right. It's not a binding agreement. You can say whatever you want. And a lot of people failed to notice that in one motion completely cut Avenatti's legs right off of him, because there's nothing else he can do. The whole pretext for his howling disappeared in an instant. And you know what they were left with? The fact that Stormy Daniels can now publish a book of her own. And the latest thing that's been going on is that Avenatti is trying to do the same kind of thing that we see with these smears against Kavanaugh. And of course, Avenatti has made some of them, but others have as well. You know, the idea that he took his penis out and waved it in my face, the clinical statements that are supposed to smear people just by the fact that they had been discussed. We saw it all with Roy Moore. And we talked about how if the Roy Moore thing were allowed to stand, that we would soon see it being used consistently. And it is. We've got, Michael Avenatti appearing on TV programs saying that, there's something specific about Donald Trump's penis that makes it recognizable, and Stormy Daniels knows it, which means it's not a lie. Now we've got this thing where, they were talking about how the party that this Ford accuser woman was at, 5 teenagers, that's a party. I mean, I don't know what kind of teenage house parties they were having, but 5 kids hanging out and drinking is not what I call a party. And yet now, having been ground through this weird scandal Rube Goldberg machine of Michael Avenatti and the rest, it plops out on the other side as stories about these huge parties that have lines of men running out of the bedrooms and down the hallways as each one of them is lined up waiting to take advantage to gang rape some woman who's been drugged on a bed.
Absolutely. Sure.
What the fuck? I mean, this really is like satanic scares.
These are leftist fantasies. They're leftist fantasies, man. They're what they would do given the opportunity. It's what they do on things like, what is that island called? Pedophile Island? Yes.
The Lolita Express, yes.
Sure.
You think that anything,
what the fuck?
You think something will come out about all this Pizzagate pedophile shit eventually?
Eventually, but it will probably come out from the standpoint of being charged, and then the charges are dropped,
and yet the person
lesser
charged goes away quietly.
Yes, quietly. I am waiting for the Clintons and their Mr. What's-his-face, who's head of the DNC at this point.
Tom Perez. And what's his name? Keith Ellison tried to run as Attorney General in Minnesota. Mr.
Ellison has got his problems. Mr. Ellison is being abandoned, so to speak, by the Democrats because his problems are too bad. That's why he went back into state politics as opposed to going on nationally. He was slated to go national, but he has shit in his cornflakes too thoroughly.
Yeah, it does seem rather odd that he would go from being a senator? A congressman?
Congressman.
To merely the attorney general of a state? I mean, that's not an upward trajectory on the cursus honorum, is it?
No, it's not, is it? But it does allow you to fall back to the area where you're most protected.
And when he goes down, the people who are in his shadow, like Ilhan Omar, will go down too. As you know, I have
good old Ilhan Omar.
I have a warm spot in my heart for her.
Oh, my goodness. It makes my heart beat. It makes my heart soar like the hawk. Oh. Ilhan Omar. Yes, indeed. Yeah, well, that just goes to show you what happens when you marry your brother. But at any rate.
So it's leftist. It's a leftist program. It's a leftist scam.
And they are immune to all of its all of its side issues, which is to say that Ilhan Omar can marry her brother and do all sorts of illegal things, and people can get up and go, hey, man, I got a marriage certificate here. And people go, oh, pish tush, pish tush, pish tush. Whereas you come out with Judge Kavanaugh once waved his penis, I think. I think it was his penis, and I think it was Judge Kavanaugh. I'm not really sure. I can't remember. But I remember somebody pulling their pants up, and I think it was Judge Kavanaugh. You know, this kind of bullshit turns into a national issue, which is garbage.
Coming out with people like Ronan Farrow, who looked like he was navigating well enough that he was going to survive this with an improved reputation, and yet he just sank himself. And this coming out in the New Yorker, the Atlantic, the New York Times.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, that's what you can expect, you know, when somebody waves their penis in your face. Ooh, let's have him pulling up his pants. Come on. Ronan Farrow is nothing but a little safe space, safe space, safe space, safe space. I've got to remember I'm on YouTube and I can't say such things.
Yes.
Yes. But listen, honey, that Ronan Farrow is something else. Oh, my God. Yeah. So at any rate, anybody who wants to can take that any way they want. The thing is that we don't have a system of justice designed for what the leftists are trying to do, which is they let this letter that Senator Feinstein had sit there for 6, 7, 8 weeks. Then when everything is closed, the hearing was closed, Ollie. No more evidence, no more questions, no more nothing. The only thing left was to vote. Here comes this woman with her allegations.
All right, it's absurd. But how long can they be allowed to fucking get away with this?
As long as we let them. As long as we, the people, don't stand up and say, bullshit. This is crap. This is not worthy of our attention. Now, I'm sorry, but you can drag out all the allegations made by menopausal women you want to. And it doesn't really matter to me. The criteria for a Supreme Court nomination has been met. They have had their hearings. They have subjected this man to having to give up millions of pages of documents, more than anybody else has ever had to give up.
Yeah, and more than like the last whatever number of them combined, and then answer written questions to the tune of thousands of them after the fact. And he, of course, has the huge record of the written judgments that he's rendered. So,
sure. And it was closed. It was over. It was done. They'd rung the gavel down on it. What have you got now? Oh, we've got allegations. Allegations of what? Of recovered memories.
That they had to meditate upon for 6 days and consult with their attorneys in order to figure out, yeah.
Yeah, sure. I have no interest in this nonsense. This is like you go to a psychotherapist and you discover all this. Oh, you were probably abused sexually at some point. That is about as solid as it gets. You were probably abused sexually at some point. This is the therapist guiding the individual through their memories.
Right, so it's preposterous crap. Well, now we are recording this on Tuesday. What is this? Let me double check. This is Tuesday the 25th. By the time it goes up, I expect it will be Thursday the 27th. So,
my God, the great day itself.
We will probably know more at that point, but I wonder, shortly before we're coming up on that, whether or not you care to make any predictions about what's likely to happen.
Well, sure, I will make predictions.
Both for the vote and the fallout during the midterms for the people up in Congress.
I'm going to predict even more pinpoint than that. I'm going to predict that this sociologist who's driving across country is going to be too tired and too exhausted by her recent drive across country to face the Senate at this point.
Oh, you think she won't even do it?
I think she won't even do it. I think she's going to need all kinds of rest and recuperation. Right. What she needs is a good swift kick in the ass.
And
put it bluntly.
So you think that they will vote on it on Thursday?
Yeah, I do. And I think that Judge Kavanaugh is going to be nominated.
Or confirmed.
Nominated, confirmed, and set forth as a sterling example. And then I think that when Justice Ginsburg retires, which she must do.
Yeah, I've seen
Trump
her
is going
speak
to
recently. She's gone.
Oh, yeah, she's toast. I think that Trump is going to put that female he's got in line.
Another Catholic.
Yes, another Catholic. And I think that she will be confirmed. See, the Republicans have one chance only. Otherwise, they are going to face the greatest blue wave they have ever seen. They've got to stand up on their hind legs and bark. They've got to say, no, this is enough. This is more than enough. We have tried everything in the book. We will hear her after Judge Kavanaugh is on the court, if she's willing to testify. The whole thing is to get it so that Judge Kavanaugh cannot be Justice Kavanaugh in time for this year's calendar. That's the whole point of this delay. And everybody keeps sidestepping that issue. If he's not confirmed shortly, then very shortly, it's going to be too late for him to join the court this term. Therefore, we have a 4-4 as opposed to a 5-4. We don't have 9 justices, we have 8.
Yeah, there's even been talked out, as you've seen it, about how they feel like, well, maybe that's just what we need to do is, have the court only be 8 justices for this period. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Absolutely.
I mean, there's a reason that the number 9 is not an even number,
Well, yes. Yes, there is. And I, for one, given my background and my history with federal judges, where I told one once when she said she'd like to give me more time, and I said, Madam, I imagine you would. Even I can see that this is bullshit. This is nonsense. It cannot be allowed to go forth. Therefore, it cannot go forth.
Well, then what happens if you're wrong and he is not confirmed Thursday?
Then the Republicans will lose a huge majority because a number of people will simply stay the fuck away, or they will vote for other than Republican candidates.
Putting it into disarray.
Exactly
and
so.
And screwing the margins, yes.
Mm-hmm. They may vote for a lot of independents. They may vote for a lot of this, that, and the other. But they will not vote for Republicans if Republicans do not stand up. Now, that's as simple as it gets. And listen, honey, the little brown unicorns are just dancing everywhere. They just don't know what to do about this Kavanaugh business. They don't know whether to shit, poop, whatever. They're just in amazement like the rest of the conscious world. How can these people expect regular, civilized, middle America to endorse this nonsense? The whole idea of taking an allegation and elevating it to proof beyond a reasonable doubt is repugnant to everything American. Unless, of course, you're just, listen, honey, I know she's right. I believe her.
Liars.
Without even knowing what she has to claim yet. They believe her. Well, I guess Hawaii really is the land of the lotus eaters. Got a senator from Hawaii who believes her, not having any idea what she claims. The fact that she is a woman is sufficient. One of the oppressed class. Yes. Oh, yes, I believe it.
Yeah, middle-aged PhD Yale graduate, white female. Yeah, oppressed.
Yeah, definitely oppressed. She's oppressed like you wouldn't believe. I wonder what her husband looks like. We haven't seen a picture of him yet.